She's coming from the beautiful windy city of Chicago, Illinois today. We have gone from Chennai in India, to British Columbia in Canada, and now we are a little bit further south back again on Chicago, Illinois with Tiffany. Tiffany has held CEO, president, and senior leadership positions in international Fortune 100 healthcare companies. She currently serves as a board member for Telix Pharmaceuticals, Castle Biosciences, and Langham Logistics. Tiffany is a thought leader, advisor, and speaker with a goal of inspiring companies to bring their teams to the next level of connection and leadership. And Tiffany, what a gift it is for all of us in our global audience to have you share your expertise and wisdom with all of us today. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Since I was a little girl, I knew that I wanted to run a business. While other girls were playing Barbie, I played store. I was making a profit at 5 years old. I knew I was born to run a business. As anyone who's been in healthcare knows, profit, it can be a dirty word. We know it's always second to excellence in patient care. But in this session, I'll teach you how you can have a good heart while making money. Healthcare is a business that must stay financially healthy for everyone's well-being. My first job out of college was in healthcare, and it was selling for a pharmaceutical company. And this is where I fell in love with the industry and where I've spent my career. I fell in love with helping people, with the science, with the patient care. And I found my business background, my wanting to make a profit since I was 5, combined with the science, could make a difference. And it still drives me today. I'm going to give you examples, 3 case studies of different challenges that I've had while being in the industry. Now, these are patterns that I recognized at work, kind of really, how a new way of thinking, a cultural shift, and that transformation led to more profits and a better business. Due to confidentiality, I'm not going to name the specific companies or people, but these are true experiences of my past in leading organizations through transformation. And I call this 3-part series, Victims, Value, and Victory. Let's get started. If you're at work and you hear the following, there's nothing we can really do. It's not our fault, it's the competitors that are dropping their prices. Sure, our service levels are low, but we can't do anything about it. If you hear this, then you're at a company that feels that they are victims to the market circumstances. Now, this was the situation that I had when I ran into a new position at a new company. Volumes were decreasing. The biggest product category had a declining market. Prices were eroding. And in healthcare, we were having tighter pre-authorization protocols. So what that meant is the provider had to work extra hard to get paid. And if all of that wasn't enough, the salesperson of the year was the one who lost the least amount of money. This was the Titanic, and it had hit the iceberg. People were starting to flee. Coming into any new leadership position, my philosophy is to listen, learn, and lead. I started to listen. The first questions that I started with, what's unique about what we do? What differentiates us in the marketplace? Was anyone able to answer these questions? Was there consistency in how it was answered? Any common threads? And for anyone who has kids, the word that always gets you talking, why? Why are we losing profit? Why is the competition ahead of us? But take note, it really takes trust to have this type of conversation. Transparency and openness are needed for trust. So how do you build it? It's something that has to be built over time, day in and day out. So starting with my leadership team and getting their buy-in was very important and the first step. Next, I went to the people of influence. I mean, you know the ones, the people with the large informal networks inside the company. Then the word gets out that you can be trusted and that people are safe when they tell you the truth. I was listening to understand, not to respond. So listening to understand, this really allows you to hear what's being said, and just as importantly, what's not being said. Because this is where you can really start to understand what customers and employees need and want. When I asked the question, what do our customers need? The typical response was, they only care about price. This is never a good place to be, regardless of the industry. Being the lowest price provider is never a good strategy. I knew that the company didn't understand about what our customers wanted. They didn't understand about value, about differentiation. They didn't understand that they didn't have to be victims. They were really trapped in their way of thinking and didn't see a way out. Learning from people, learning why they were resistant, learning what people felt, learning about their opinions. I then knew that I needed to lead, and that I needed to lead with a market-in strategy. So I went to the customer base in a big way. We surveyed over 2,000 customers in a blinded study. Guess what we found? In our customers' opinion, we had no differentiation of products or services. They used our products, but they didn't really care about us. We were kind of like the Kleenex of our industry. You know, everyone knows our name, but no one was willing to pay more for our services. And that's when you know that you have a transactional relationship and not a partnering relationship that's built on long-term and built on growth. This is something we had to build. The problem was well defined. Our market had turned into a commodity-based market where low price is king and very little differentiation in the marketplace. For me, it was maddening. And in my leadership team, I said, I didn't come here to be in a commodity business. We are leaders. We need to act as leaders. So with the market and the customer and all the employees telling us what was wrong, we now needed another set of questions. I went back on that listening tour and I asked a vital question that really helped to start some creative thinking. Now you're going to find that you'll get a lot further with questions than answers. You know, many times junior people believe that they have to have all the answers, but as leaders, it's about listening. It's in the questions that you find your answers. So the question that I asked, what crazy thing can we do next? What's missing in our current offerings? And I gotta tell you, I got some wild stuff. You know, things we had never thought about. And it started to change people's thinking from we're unlucky to we can create our own luck. What we needed was transformational change. We needed transformational change, which is different from just change. So change is external. It's when a ball gets thrown through the window and now I need a new window. Transformational change, that's internal. And it involves a radical move in the business model, a radical reshaping of culture, process, and strategy. At the next team meeting, we all looked deeply into that data from our employees and the market survey. It was eye-opening. We looked at what our customers want, what was important to them, things we had never thought about. No one had looked at this information before. We learned what they wanted and what we needed to offer. Because what we needed was differentiation. We needed transformational change. And once the leadership team believed that we could make these changes, well, then what we did is we took all these ideas, all those crazy ideas, and we put them through a decision funnel. The funnel included people resources. How many people were needed? Did we have the right skill sets? What's the cost? How long would it take? How much time before we saw results? And what was going to be the degree of difficulty to success? We picked the top 10 that came out of the funnel, and pilot teams were formed, and we started to implement solutions. While doing this, we made sure that everyone understood our revised mission and where we were going and the strategy. Communicating in a large organization, it's about repetition. So whether you're in a large organization or just standing in your kitchen with your family, repetition is the way you get through. So researchers say that it takes 7 times after seeing an advertisement, or maybe 7 times after you've said something to your family, before people will remember or act. And in large organizations, there's all different types of communication that are needed, from voicemail, email, videos, posters. It's about cascading that information. You need to do it continually and more than 7 times. Just when you feel you're getting sick of telling this message, then you know it's starting to get through your organization and people are starting to understand. To be successful and for those pilot projects to be successful, they all required a change in mindset. We needed new skills, specifically in our sales force, how to sell not on price, but on value. And everyone needed to be responsible for the customer. You know, it was about bringing the customer in. And we did that through articles, videos, stories, and actually bringing customers in. And with that first win, the first change in that mindset, we celebrated them. Tell the stories about them. Make it known that this is what's important. This transformation took a few years, and after 5 years, we had met all of our goals. We differentiated products and services. Our profit had quadrupled. Revenue increased substantially. And in a new survey back up to our customers, they rated their loyalty to us at 95 out of 100. And the next closest competitor was only at 70. Our employees themselves rated us 3% higher than the highest performing companies ever surveyed in their own personal satisfaction. After this, they never saw themselves as victims again. Our next episode in this series is called Value. So this is a story about adding on to something that's currently working. But for how long? You have a successful business, you need to add on a new product line. The company needs to expand globally or into a new market. We've all been there, even in our personal lives. You know, it's like when you want to add on an extra spare bedroom to your room, but your partner doesn't want to. They feel it's fine the way it is. My first day on a new job, starting a new division, I heard similar things. The old way is working. You don't understand. Why expand? And frankly, just go away. So if this sounds familiar to you, or if you're in this type of a situation, you know how difficult this can be. Because when trying to introduce something new, you will meet resistance. And this story is about how to work through that resistance and show that you can bring value. Again, I used my leadership philosophy of listen, learn, and lead. Listen to understand and learn why the resistance. First thing I needed to do was to find my supporters, those that believed that this change could bring a better future. And it's especially important that the leaders and the people in power positions are working with you. Now, when you have a big change initiative, treat it like a sale. Because whether you like it or not, you're always making a sale, an emotional sale. Why should they care? How will this make their life better? You're selling an opinion, an idea, and in this case, it was going to be the biggest sales that I ever had. So I went back to my sales roots and I mapped out who the stakeholders were. Who would be sold on the economics of the deal? It was going to be more profitable, more market share. Who would be sold on the technology? It was really cool science. Who was going to be that person in direct power that needed to agree? And for me, at this time, it was the division presidents. Then I looked at who could influence others. Those in those indirect power positions, the ones that can turn everyone in the organization, everyone looks to them, and who would be there to support. So once I knew their roles in this sales process, I mapped them out. Literally, take a piece of paper and map them. Who are your friendlies? Those that were on my side, willing to help. Who's the sponsor? That person that really wanted to get this done, needed to get it done. They saw the value in this change. Who are the spies? Just seeing what I was up to and then reporting back. Now, once you have a culture of transparency, they go away. Who is the eel? This is the villain with the smile. That person or people who try to make it fail. Now, they may never go away, but their voices can be less loud. I call it neutralizing them. Then it's about trying to move people into productive boxes, that space that leads to transformation. I needed to go on a listening and learning tour to find out what was behind the fear of resistance. Could I minimize this fear? I asked a magic question. Imagine if. Imagine if you had more money, time, control. And then I geared the question to their answer. What if this new way could get you there? Because once I understood the emotion behind the resistance, I could show them how this change could help them. With change, you need not only people's hearts, but you need their minds. And once we understood each other and I had that emotional connection, I went for the mind. When dealing with people, especially scientists and engineers, data and graphics are king. And in this case, it was a lot about third-party case studies and stories that were known in the industry to be able to factually show what this could do. People buy on emotion, and they justify with facts. Then, armed with those emotions and facts, the roadshow started. Remember, people need to hear things 7 times, especially in order to trickle down in an organization. So the road shows really helped in getting as many people as possible interested in the change. We got adoption. It started on a small scale, but it started to work, and we celebrated loudly. And soon others wanted to learn what was working so well and how they could be involved. Today, it's part of the way that business is done. It's accepted. It started with getting the hearts, then the minds, the early adopters, and celebrating those wins. This type of change is never easy. It's hard work, but well worth the effort. Just ask, imagine if, and see where the questions take you and the value that you can add. The last story is about victory. In one of my companies, we were super excited about a new product that we were going to launch and bring to market. But one day, instead, we received a warning letter from the FDA. For those not in healthcare, a warning letter, it's a really bad thing to get. And it means exactly as the title suggests. Warning. You are in trouble. You should not proceed as you have. You need to find a new way. In my first meeting with the FDA, I was really nervous. I didn't know what was going to happen. How bad was this? How hard could it be to fix? How much time and money was it going to take? Surprisingly, what they said to me, your culture is the problem, and that we could change everything else, process, manufacturing, systems, but without changing our culture, we would not be successful. After the meeting, I kept thinking about what they had said. Why didn't anybody speak up sooner? Why didn't people understand how important quality is? How did we get here? And this is when I started to realize that, in fact, it is our culture that was the primary reason. So we started assessing leadership skills. Could managers teach? Could they delegate? Could they lead? We looked at how we collaborated, how the team was structured. How could we get people to feel that they could bring up issues when they saw one? And most importantly, this time I asked, tell me our vision. And everyone from that line worker to the leadership team needs to be able to articulate this. What are our values? Do these easily roll off everyone's tongue? And finally, tell me our strategy in 2 minutes. And this is for everyone, from that person who just came in last week to our 30+ year tenured employee. Now, many people confuse vision, mission, goal, and strategy. Vision, one day. Mission, today. Values, every day. And the strategy, that's the how you do all of the above. Strategy, it's the single most important thing you need to do to win, to help to achieve your vision. You can divide it up, 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. And the goal, number driven. Gain share, reach $1 billion, grow faster than market. And if people couldn't answer these questions, I knew we had a lot more work to do. Getting the message to all levels, 7 times. I started getting sick of saying it, so I knew it was just getting through the organization. Here's how the transformation took place. Quality was soon leading cross-functional teams to solve problems, and people knew that these were a priority. We got everyone involved that needed to be involved, put the vision, expectations out there that our culture was going to be one of quality, customer focus, and collaboration. It became a lot of little things that needed to change and constant reminders and rewards for even small milestones. Then came that big test. The FDA came to inspect our facility. Before my team entered the room, we gathered everyone and we reminded ourselves of what we had done, the progress we made, and about our culture. And at the end of the 2-week inspection, we had victory. They gave us what's equivalent of an A+. We had changed our process. We had changed our designs. Most importantly, we had changed our culture, and everyone could feel this, even the FDA. Everyone celebrated in the victory because everyone owned our new culture. So when you think this is the worst day, the news you just heard is horrendous, just remember, it could be your luckiest day to move the organization forward. What do these 3 stories, victim, value, and victory, have in common? They all required a change to the culture, to how people felt about the company, their jobs, their ability to add value to the organization. It was about a new way of thinking. That is what was needed to move the company forward. And once the new culture was established, growth could happen. Here are the 3 things you can do today that are going to help you to change the culture you need for tomorrow. Find the important questions. I call them the magic questions because when asked, they will give you the answers. It can be scary to ask questions. You may not want to hear those answers, but as the leaders, change agents of the organization, we must ask those hard questions and be willing to listen to the honest answers. Remember, always stay curious. First, listen to understand. Listen and you will learn. That's number 2. What's really behind that resistance? Learning has to be valued within your organization. But this is where the growth and development happens and helps to bring transformational change. When you've listened to hear where people are at and learn where the growth potential is at, then step forward to lead, to make a difference, being clear and open and creating that diversity of mindset around you. By doing these 3 things, you can change your culture and improve the bottom line. These have been my experiences, and I have many, many more. But what I want to leave you with in the end, transformational change, it's about the journey of how you get there. I mean, I get joy out of figuring it out. It's fun. And I want to give to you the spirit of curiosity, the joy of asking questions. Have the mindset of enjoying figuring this out. You know, the reason why I never liked to play Barbie? There were just only a few scenarios where for me playing store was about the million different ways and things that needed to happen. I wish you all good luck on your journey of change. Thank you.
Tiffany, outstanding. Thank you so much for the presentation. I'm going to ask you to stop showing the screen so that I can bring my camera back on. And we have a number of audience questions, and you cover some so many different aspects of cultural transformation. I'm going to start with one that was a common theme in the questions, is around value creation. You know, any one of us who has led cultural transformation has come against this argument that is, when we focus on transformation for value creation, most people think about just financial value creation, and they think, well, maybe that, you know, becomes too narrowly focused and we're not creating a good, we can make money and still have a horrible culture. And but I will also pose that it's hard to have a good culture if you don't make any money. And and then the question becomes, and I work with a lot of nonprofit organizations, so how do you deal with, you know, value creation in nonprofits? So I'm curious about your perspectives on that, on from healthcare and other industries. How do you bridge the value creation question on cultural transformation without making it, you know, feel like it's a financial accounting exercise?
A couple of things that I think. First, it's always no money, no mission. So even nonprofits usually have to be financially responsible. But the culture doesn't have to be all about driving the number. It can be about driving the service to the community, driving sustainability within a community. Those things are extremely important. So when you look at the vision and your strategy, those are all things that can go into your unique culture and making sure that what people care about, it could be, you know, being the friendly one, being able to work directly with customers. Target stores, many, many years ago, their whole tagline was fast and friendly. Southwest, hire for the smile. So even though you can still be financially driven, you've got to have that culture that's going to get you to your vision.
Oh, that's very well said. You're creating financial and or social value creation, because even nonprofits are serving a cause, they're delivering social value, but you need to know what that value is. I'll share that with our research and practice, we have found that the only common denominator across successful cultural transformations in terms of behaviors that they exhibit is that they have value creation behaviors, which you have highlighted very well here. Now, a lot of comments on healthcare in general came up during your presentation. Healthcare is considered to be a tough industry for change, because there are multiple stakeholders with a lot of power and authority over decisions, and it's just a difficult environment relative to other or industries. And these are perceptions, perhaps realities, I don't know. But I'm curious about, with your experience in healthcare and other industries, is there a particular challenge that you have found in healthcare for transformation that's unique to healthcare, or it's really overblown and this healthcare is just like any other industry?
So I've only been in healthcare, so I only have one particular lens, and change is very, very tough. And it is tough because you have many different stakeholders, especially throughout the supply chain. And right now, hospitals are really struggling with the need to look at, do we try to center around the patient versus around the physicians, or around certain departments, or around certain areas within the hospital? Do you center around disease states? But remember that slide that I showed that had all of the different stakeholders and considering it as a sale? And that's exactly what you need to do, is to look at, if we do it this way, imagine if that physician had more time, had more control, had more ability to share in the outcome of that patient. So it's getting to asking some of those questions, finding out the resistance. All of those things that I talked about are needed to be done regardless of the industry. But when you have a lot of very smart people, sometimes I think that you've really got to concentrate on, what's that emotion? Because remember, people buy with emotion. And then what are the facts? What are those graphs? What are the stories? What are the clinical trial information, whatever it may be, that then you can tie both of those together to help with the change. And I will tell you that the magic word, I think, in healthcare is pilot. If you can pilot something and then really celebrate the success, celebrate it loudly, because then everybody else wants to then be a part of that success. But it's tough, and change is difficult anywhere.
Absolutely, absolutely. Those are great insights, Tiffany. Thank you for that. So there are commentary and questions that are coming through the session, the platform, also through LinkedIn. People LinkedIn and sending direct messages about with questions. And one of them is actually quite humorous, and I'll share that with you. And it's someone who's saying, "Hey, listen, I work in healthcare. We need cultural transformation in where I work," without citing the name of the organization. And then they said, "But here's the reality. If I bring up cultural transformation to my leaders, they will fire me and everybody who looks like me." And so the question is, as a senior leader in healthcare, if you put yourself on the perspective of an employee, of someone who's working in the system, if you will, what is the best way for those individuals to highlight the need for cultural transformation, or maybe suggestions for cultural transformation? How would you address a senior leader like yourself to get their attention in a meaningful, productive way that will lead perhaps to, paying a bit more attention to the need for a cultural transformation?
Bring the customer, in the case of healthcare, the patient in. Our patients have been telling me that they've been experiencing problems with the scheduling, with our on-call policy, with whatever. And I've really noticed that it's really having kind of a negative effect on them. Have we thought about a new system, a new this, a new that, those types of things? or bringing it back to, our mission here is to help patients overcome cancer, to get them through that journey. But what I've really found is that our patients are struggling with the scheduling. It's confusing. They have to stand in a long line when they come in. Most of them are really fatigued. Wouldn't it be great? Imagine if we had an area where they could do it on their phone and then they could just come in and relax before their treatments. Just things like that, painting the picture, using the words imagine if it can tie back to the mission and bringing the customer in. Because those are things that everybody can get around. People might not always agree on the how to make that happen, but by continually bringing that up, and can I start a pilot? Can I start a little program where maybe we just try this out? Those are always good things to help start on a much larger scale of a change.
That's great feedback, Tiffany. Thank you for that. Another question that came up that I thought was quite interesting has to do with the story that you share with the FDA coming in and saying, "Hey, your problem is your culture." So there's a lot of commentary that says that's you took it very well. I mean, you took it. That's someone made it. It's an analogy that this is almost like someone coming to you and say, "Hey, the problem with you is your personality," because culture is like who you are as an organization, right? Your sense of identity. How did you not become defensive and turn that what could be considered a very critical negative feedback into a positive? How was that? How did you deal with that emotions within the organization and turn it around to a positive?
Well, when I was told that, and it was in a direct meeting face to face, I just went, and I didn't respond because I thought, okay, they're telling me something. I need to listen. I need to try to listen to this. And then it took me, on the ride home and on the flight home, it was just digesting that and then running through that. How did we get here? I mean, what do they really mean by that? And I realized that we didn't have that culture that we needed. We didn't have that quality customer first at that time. People didn't understand it. And then that's when starting getting the leadership team, looking at what we needed to do. And as you can imagine, when you're in this kind of trouble, everybody has an opinion. Everybody is going to try to tell you what to do, what not to do. And at the end of the day, it was, how do we change that culture? How do we make sure that not only are we taking the advice of the FDA, but that we have something that's going to be able to be sustained through the years, through all of the manufacturing processes that we have? How do we do that? And these things do take time. And we had turnover of some individuals because that happens also, but it was about making sure culture of accountability, culture of quality, of being able to speak up, and of being able to listen. Because if people are speaking, leaders need to listen. And all of that went into helping to solve that problem.
Very good, very good. And the question, shifting a little bit from culture to strategy. We all have heard the Drucker quote, "From culture eats strategy for breakfast." Whatever you're trying to do is just, a side dish in the jaws of culture. So, and a lot of people have become desensitized about strategy. And the reason for that is there's often no cohesiveness on senior leadership ranks with respect to the key strategies. So they blow up a bunch of strategies, and people figure that if they duck long enough, this is just another strategy that's gonna blow by and die a slow death. And if I just keep doing what I'm doing, it's fine. And that becomes pervasive in organizations. You make a big deal about the strategy in 2 minutes, and tell us a little bit more about that and the importance of that, maybe in fighting what I just described.
Absolutely. So I am not a component of the strategy of the week or the strategy of the book club. So a new book comes out, all of a sudden corporation has a new strategy, or they see something they don't like, all of a sudden, whoop, we're going to switch strategies. Strategy should be able, if done properly and well, be able to sustain over a long period of time. But in order for people to really understand what is our strategy, what is it that I need to do, how do I need to find myself, they have to be able to articulate it. And everybody should be able to do it. And if you can't do it in less than 2 minutes, people aren't going to remember it, they aren't going to understand it, and then you will never be able to get it through the organization. So for me, it's about letting people be able to articulate the strategy. And it's more than just a tagline, but it's the single most important thing you need to do to win. So if when you state your strategy and you state it in, succinct, if that's not the most important thing that you need to do to win in this year, in 2 years, in 5 years, then it's not the right strategy. And that for me has been something that I have always worked extremely hard with the leadership team, and then bringing other key members of the organization in to make sure that it is the right strategy. And if you know your customer base and you go out and you bring that market in strategy, it will be the right strategy.
That's wonderful, because you're already answering another question that came up around that collaboration on strategy. As a board member, as a senior leadership team member, as physicians and nurses, and even the patient's perspectives, getting all of that in healthcare aligned, that seems quite challenging. I think you addressed this. Is there anything more that you want to add to how do you get all these multiple stakeholders to see and agree on the key strategy?
So I have done meetings where I'll have the key leaders from different segments of the organization, the market data, the data with employees, the data specific to the customers is all there, and we go through it. They are very facilitated, usually can take about 3 days, and incredibly facilitated. The hardest one I did was when COVID hit, and we did it virtually. Incredibly difficult, and really took a lot of effort on the pre-meeting side. They all do, but this one especially. And then we broke it over into periods of time, 2-3 hours at a time, over a month and a half, just to be able to get through it. But otherwise, it's getting people together, all of the information, the pre-meeting, having a good facilitator to facilitate through really helps in getting all of this set.
Turn on my microphone back on. Tiffany, thank you so much for great insights. What a masterclass on cultural transformation, especially in healthcare, such a challenging environment that we hear from so many people in the industry. And you have really laid out a very clear path forward for organizations to transform themselves meaningfully and profitably. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and expertise with our global audience today.
Well, thank you very much. And again, I wish you all best of luck in your journey.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Tiffany Olson, board member at Castle Biosciences, sharing her wisdom and expertise with all of us today. So what a gift to have a senior leader with her experience and expertise and insights, freely sharing those insights with all of us. Now, we are going to be taking another break here, and when we come back, it's going to be a very, very interesting session. We're going to wrap up the day with the founder of Homeworks, and we're going to talk about working from home and productivity. Listen, you go pre-pandemic, and a lot of organizations will say, in this organization, nobody works from home. Everybody has to be here full time. We had 5-year digital transformation plans that never got implemented because of all these different barriers that were happening. in the organization. And then all of a sudden, the pandemic hits, we cannot show up in the office anymore. And we have five-year digital plans that got implemented in 5 days, because that's what it took for organizations to keep functioning. So you go through that and do all the benefits of working from home, from the professional perspective, from the employer perspective as well. Everybody's doing well there. And then we reopen the office. We reopen the office, and it's kind of a transition where things are moving slowly to a hybrid workplace, and in some organizations, full on and not on at all in others. But what has happened now, and there is a real friction going on right now in a lot of organizations, employers want employees back in the office, and employees do not want to be back in the office for many, many reasons. As a matter of fact, a recent study just talked about nearly 70% of employees would actually give up on $30,000 in annual salary not to return to the office. Now, this is not the message that you hear from corporate, because corporate is saying that everybody loves to be in the office because of collaboration, so on and so forth. No matter where you stand on this dialogue, you do not want to miss the next discussion, because in the next discussion, the founder of Homeworks is going to talk about providing the best work from home office solutions, and how we can make work from home perhaps a permanent fixture of great enduring organizations. And so it's a session filled with insights, filled with controversy, just like what we should have here, so that we can have open discussions and debates about the best approaches that can work for different organizations. So for now, thank you again for your engagement. Thank you for the posts you put on LinkedIn, the messages here and on LinkedIn. And let's take a break, and we'll be back at the top of the hour with John Lee, the founder of Homeworks, and talking about best work from home office solutions.